The morning light over Portland glowed soft gold. It made everything look kinder, almost unreal. At Pine and 8th Street, doors opened slowly. Little Sunrise Bakery filled with fresh bread scent. Cinnamon rolls steamed, sweet and comforting nearby. It was supposed to be an ordinary morning, but two small voices changed everything inside. "Sir, please, can we pay later today?" "Our mom's really sick at home, please." The cashier froze, holding a loaf mid-air. Behind the counter, silence pressed against warmth. Two little girls stood on tiptoe quietly. They were twins, thin, nervous, yet brave-faced. Their braids matched, their hands trembled slightly. Hope shone in their eyes, fragile, bright. Everyone in line stopped without meaning to. Among them stood Adrian Miles, adjusting his coat. He was used to control, not compassion. A man who owned everything but peace. What happened next would change their lives forever. But pause for a moment and imagine. What would you do in Adrian's place? Walk away, or listen to something deeper inside? The bakery's warmth didn't reach Adrian's heart. His world was glass towers and quiet deals. He came only for coffee and calm. But now his gaze locked on the twins. Hazel and Grace Bennett stood near the counter. The bread before them looked like treasure. Mr. Thompson, the old baker, looked uneasy. "I'm sorry, girls. We don't keep tabs." Hazel's lip trembled. Her voice almost broke. Grace held her sister's hand for courage. "Please, sir, Mom couldn't get up today. We haven't eaten since yesterday," she whispered softly. Adrian's chest tightened, memory stirring like ash. He had known hunger once, different but deep. Hunger for affection, belonging, something true. Before he realized, his voice filled the room. "How much is the bread?" he asked evenly. Three heads turned toward the unexpected stranger. Mr. Thompson blinked. "$3.25, he replied. Adrian opened his wallet without hesitation. He placed a $20 bill down. "Cover theirs. Keep the change," he said simply. The twins looked up, eyes wide with disbelief. "Thank you, sir," Grace whispered gratefully. "We'll pay you back when Mom's better." Adrian shook his head with quiet finality. "No need. Just take care of her." They clutched the loaf like something sacred. At the door, Hazel gave a shy wave. Grace smiled, a small, disarming, genuine smile. Then they disappeared into the bright morning. Adrian stood still, unable to move yet. The baker muttered, "Good people still exist." But Adrian barely heard the old man's words. Something inside him had shifted, quietly, permanently. He walked out into Portland's noisy streets. The city buzzed, alive but strangely distant. He could have gone home, to silence. Instead, his thoughts echoed with those small voices. "Can we pay later? Our mom's sick." He turned corners without knowing his reason. He looked for them, scanning faces, sidewalks. In his mind, he saw them clearly. Thin arms, old shoes, brave little hearts, Grace holding that loaf like it was life. He paused by a cafe window, staring blankly. His reflection looked sharp, rich, but empty. For once, he didn't recognize his own eyes. Why did this moment matter so much? Why did kindness suddenly cut through armor? Maybe because real compassion never fades quietly. It stays, echoing where walls used to be. The Harborview Hotel welcomed him coldly again. Marble floors gleamed, polished, indifferent, perfect. The concierge smiled with professional distance intact. The elevator hummed, carrying him skyward soundlessly. His penthouse glowed, expensive, organized, but lifeless. He placed groceries on the counter without care. Imported fruit, bottled water, pastries untouched, forgotten. He sat by the window watching Portland shimmer. Somewhere their mother waited, frail but hopeful. And somewhere deep within, a truth awakened. The man who had everything felt truly empty. That night, Adrian Miles didn't sleep at all. The city lights flickered against his restless thoughts. A loaf of bread haunted his mind's quiet. He didn't know it yet, not fully. But that simple act had begun unraveling everything. His world of walls would soon be rebuilt, not with wealth, but with meaning, with purpose. And this was only the beginning of that. Days passed, yet the memory stayed alive. He had mastered forgetting, but not this time. The girls' voices played again and again. No matter how many meetings or calls, their faces lingered, steady, gentle, undeniable. He stood by the glass wall of his office. Portland stretched endlessly, beautiful, uncaring, eternal. He could buy anything but inner peace. His assistant, Ethan Cruz, finally noticed the change. "You've been quiet lately," Ethan said softly. "Too quiet, even for you," he added. Adrian didn't look up from his documents. "Ethan, I need you to do something." "Of course, sir," Ethan replied, curious, patient. "Find those girls from Sunrise Bakery," Adrian said. Ethan blinked, surprised by the request's sincerity. "You really want to track them down?" Adrian nodded. "I just want to be sure. Make sure they're okay. That's all," he said. A few days later, Ethan returned with news. He placed a manila folder on the desk. "Their names are Hazel and Grace Bennett. They live with their mother, Claire Bennett. Old apartment, east side, near Burnside Street." Adrian stared at the folder without touching it. Somewhere deep inside, something quietly clicked. He wasn't done. Not yet. Not anymore. Adrian sat alone long after Ethan left. The folder rested like a quiet heartbeat nearby. He reached for it, then stopped midway. He wasn't sure what scared him more, what he'd find or what he'd feel. The next morning, Portland was wrapped in mist. Adrian drove east, past the glass towers. The streets grew smaller, paint chipped, weary. Children played near cracked sidewalks and tired walls. He parked near an old brick apartment. The nameplate read, "Bennett, 3B in rust." He took a deep breath, climbed the stairs. Each step echoed against the hollow hallway air. A door creaked open before he knocked. Hazel stood there, holding a worn blanket. Her eyes widened in startled recognition. "You're the man from the bakery." Her voice trembled like morning rain on glass. Grace appeared behind her, cautious but curious. Adrian smiled gently, lowering his proud tone. "May I see your mother, please?" The room inside smelled of medicine and tea. Sunlight fell weakly through half-drawn curtains. Their mother, Claire Bennett, sat in a chair. She looked fragile, yet her eyes were kind. Adrian removed his coat, unsure of words. "You helped my girls," Claire said softly. "Please sit, you didn't have to come." Adrian nodded, eyes tracing the modest room. Old photos lined the shelves, edges curled. A man's uniform hung folded on a hook. "Your husband?" Adrian asked, almost whispering. Claire's smile faltered. "He passed 2 years ago. Army medic. Never came home from service." Silence lingered like unspoken prayer between them. Hazel poured tea with trembling, careful hands. Grace offered him sugar in a chipped cup. Adrian took it, humbled by their grace. He asked about their days, their school, dreams. Grace wanted to draw. Hazel loved stars. Claire worked part-time sewing until her strength failed. "Sometimes," she said, "kindness is our only wealth." Those words pierced deeper than she could know. Adrian left a small envelope by the kettle. "Just groceries," he said when Claire protested. "No pity, just a little breathing space." She nodded slowly, tears glimmering unspilled. "Thank you, Mr. Miles. God always sends someone." Outside, the sky opened into pale sunlight. Adrian inhaled the city's cold air sharply. He felt lighter and heavier all at once. Back in his car, silence spoke louder. He wasn't rescuing them. He was rediscovering himself. Days turned into weeks. He kept returning quietly, sometimes with food, sometimes books for the twins, sometimes only to share tea and silence. The Bennett home became a kind of peace. He found warmth there, money never gave. One evening, Hazel showed him her drawing. It was the bakery, bread, smiles, and hope. Grace added a line in shaky handwriting. "Good people make the world soft again." Adrian stared at the words, throat tight, heart full. He realized kindness wasn't charity, it was connection. And he wasn't their savior, he was family. The man who once measured life by profit now measured it in laughter and small miracles. When spring arrived, Claire's health began improving. Hazel and Grace saved coins for her medicine. Adrian helped quietly, never asking for thanks. He didn't want gratitude, only purpose and truth. One Sunday morning, Mr. Thompson visited them. He brought a basket from Sunrise Bakery itself. Fresh bread, still warm, wrapped with a small card. It read, "For the family that changed a stranger." Adrian smiled, eyes misty, hands steady with meaning. From that day, the bakery window changed. A small sign appeared beside the register. In every loaf, a story of kindness, and below it, one final line handwritten. Sometimes feeding one soul feeds two. Adrian Miles couldn't escape the twins' faces anymore. Days passed, but their voices echoed like prayers. He had mastered forgetting, yet this memory clung. No deal or fortune could silence that echo. He stood before the skyline, lost in thought. Portland shimmered below, indifferent and endlessly alive. The city moved, but he stood completely still. He could buy anything but not his peace. Hunger for meaning replaced hunger for success now. His assistant, Ethan Cruz, noticed the quiet change. "You've been distant lately," Ethan said one morning. "Too quiet, even for you, sir." Adrian didn't look up from his papers. "Ethan, I need you to find someone." "Who?" Ethan asked, confusion flickering in his voice. "The twins from Sunrise Bakery," Adrian said softly. "The ones who couldn't afford their bread." Ethan frowned, tilting his head in disbelief. "You really want to track them down?" "That's unusual for you, Adrian," he admitted carefully. Adrian nodded once, eyes unreadable and steady. "I just want to make sure they're okay." Ethan studied him, seeing something human return quietly. "All right," he said. "I'll find them, sir." It took only a few short days. Money opened doors, but empathy opened hearts faster. Ethan returned holding a small manila folder. He placed it gently on Adrian's desk. "I found them," he said, voice low. "Their names are Hazel and Grace Bennett. They live with their mother, Claire Bennett. East Side near Burnside, old apartment complex." Adrian touched the folder like it carried fire. The paper felt heavier than steel in hand. He opened it and saw their photos inside. Two little faces he couldn't forget stared back. He swallowed hard, feeling guilt knot in his chest. The files smelled faintly of damp city streets. Inside were notes about rent, illness, and poverty. Claire Bennett, widowed, unemployed, struggling to survive each month. Hospital records spoke of chronic illness, unpaid bills. Adrian closed the folder, his hands trembling slightly. He leaned back, exhaling slowly, the city behind him. He had spent years saving companies, not people. But now, two little girls had rewritten his world. He looked out the window as rain began falling. Each drop streaked the glass like a silent promise. He didn't know it yet, but destiny stirred. The story of Hazel and Grace had only begun. That night, Adrian didn't go home. He drove aimlessly through Portland's glowing streets. Rain shimmered across his windshield like silver threads. Neon lights blurred into watercolor through the storm. He didn't know where he was heading. His thoughts chased faces he couldn't forget anymore. At a red light, he saw movement. Two small figures huddled near a dumpster bin. He leaned forward, wiping the glass for clarity. Hazel and Grace knelt in the cold rain. Their jackets were thin, their shoes soaked through. They gathered cans, counting softly under their breaths. "That's 23 cents more," Hazel whispered proudly. Grace raised her hand and smiled bravely. "We're getting closer," she said, voice trembling slightly. Adrian's hand froze on the steering wheel. The light turned green, but he didn't move. Cars honked behind him, horns echoing through rain. He couldn't look away from their small silhouettes. They weren't begging. They were surviving with dignity. Something deep inside Adrian cracked open painfully. He parked nearby, heart pounding with quiet guilt. Through the rain, he watched them from afar. They laughed between coughs, hope glowing in poverty. He didn't approach, afraid to break their pride. Instead, he sat in silence and remembered humanity. He stayed until the alley emptied completely. Later that week, he found their apartment building. It leaned like an exhausted man, walls peeling gray. Flickering lights buzzed. The hallway smelled of dampness. Through a narrow window, he saw their world. Claire folded uniforms while coughing into her sleeve. The twins sat close, doing homework in silence. The lamp flickered, casting soft halos around them. The scene felt small, but unbearably beautiful. Adrian remembered something his father once told him. "People don't ask for help until it's gone." That memory cut through him like cold wind. He whispered quietly, "They deserve more than survival." The next morning, he called Ethan again. "If I wanted to help, anonymously, how?" Ethan hesitated, sensing something different this time. "How much help are we talking about?" Adrian said. "Groceries, rent, maybe medical bills." Ethan smiled faintly. "Not your usual investment, sir." Adrian replied softly. "Consider it personal interest." That evening, a delivery arrived at their door. 2 boxes sat quietly, wrapped in brown paper. Inside were groceries, toys, and 2 teddy bears. Each bear wore a tag. "From Kind Eyes." Hazel squealed when she saw the message inside. "Mom, it's from the man at the bakery." Claire's brow furrowed, suspicion filling her tired eyes. "People don't just give gifts for free," Grace whispered. "Maybe he's just kind, Mom." Claire sighed, heart torn between fear and hope. "There's always a reason, sweetheart," she murmured. Still, that night she let them keep the bears. She told herself it was only for the girls. Across town, Adrian sat watching the city lights. He wondered if kindness could heal the unseen wounds. He didn't know yet. It already had begun. The knock came early, soft but certain. Claire laced her shoes, startled by the sound. Hazel and Grace were still eating breakfast quietly. The smell of toast lingered through the small apartment. She opened the door and froze in surprise. Adrian Miles stood there holding a paper bag. "Good morning," he said, unsure but polite. "I brought fresh bread from Sunrise Bakery." Claire's posture stiffened, eyes guarded and wary. "You shouldn't have come here," she said coldly. "It's just bread," Adrian replied, voice calm. "No strings attached, I promise you that. People like you don't just show up." Behind her, Hazel peeked with a bright smile. "It's the man from the bakery, Mom." Grace ran forward, eyes shining with excitement. "He remembered us," she shouted with joy. Claire gently pushed the door halfway closed again. "You need to go," she said firmly. Adrian hesitated, rain dripping from his coat. "I understand," he said. "But listen, please. I didn't come from pity or guilt." "Then why?" she asked, eyes full of challenge. He met her gaze, steady and unflinching. "Because your daughters reminded me of kindness. I'd forgotten what real goodness looked like." For a moment, she said nothing at all. Her defenses wavered, her breath uneven and slow. "You should leave," she said, but softer now. He handed her the bag and stepped back. "From someone who believes in you," he said. Then he turned and walked into the rain. Inside, Hazel tore open the bag quickly. She found bread and a folded handwritten note. Claire read it, her hands trembling slightly. The words were simple but heavy with meaning. "From someone who believes in you," it said. Claire slipped the note quietly into a drawer. She didn't throw it away. She couldn't. That afternoon, she worked another double shift. Her cough worsened, echoing through the hospital laundry. "You should rest," her coworker told her gently. "Bills don't take days off," Claire replied. By evening, her body ached beyond measure. She walked home slowly, chest burning with pain. The twins were drawing pictures at the table. "Look, Mom!" Grace pointed at their crayon family. "That's you, and that's him helping us." Claire smiled faintly, tears stinging her tired eyes. "Kindness can be complicated," she whispered sadly. That night, the coughing grew sharper and deeper. She tried to hide it, but failed badly. Her chest tightened until breathing became agony. Hazel woke first and shook her mother's shoulder. "Mom," she whispered. "Please wake up, Mom." Claire didn't respond, her skin pale as ash. Grace began crying, panic rising in the room. Hazel remembered the name on the bread bag. "Harborview Hotel," she whispered to her sister. "That's where the man stays. Let's find him." The girls dressed quickly and ran outside. Rain poured hard, soaking their small coats through. Their shoes slapped against the puddled streets of Portland. When they reached the tall hotel lobby, breathless, the concierge rushed forward, shocked by their state. "Girls, are you okay?" he asked urgently. Hazel shook her head, tears streaking her face. "We need Mr. Miles. Our mom's not breathing." Across the lobby, Adrian heard his name called. He turned and saw them, soaked, terrified, shaking. He didn't ask questions. Instinct took control. "Come on," he said, grabbing his coat fast. Within minutes, they were racing through the storm. At the apartment, he found Claire collapsed. Her breathing was shallow, her skin burning hot. Adrian called 911 with trembling hands and urgency. The paramedics arrived quickly, sirens slicing the rain. He rode with them, Hazel clutching his arm tightly. In the ambulance, Grace whispered, "Please don't let her die." Adrian held her close, heart breaking silently inside.